Oh, Andy, it feels good to be back. It feels like I've been gone for a long time, but it's
Yeah.
really just a short amount of time. But Happy New Year to you, my friend. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, and Happy New Year to all those that are back for 2025 with us. And it has been weird, doing two pods a week, and then you were out, I think from Monday. It does seem like it's been a long time. So it was weird without you, Dave. It was a weird way to finish the year.
Yeah, the solo pods are different. It's like I don't mind doing them, but it's definitely better when we have the back and forth.
Yeah, it's not a format I care for. I don't know how listeners feel, but like I listen to a couple pods that are individuals, and I always feel like I'm being lectured. Like I'm being told how I have to think about a certain issue or given. And I don't give a shit about your opinion. I don't need your opinion in that sense. Like when we do the solo pod, I feel like I'm lecturing our listeners, which hey, I don't want to do. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for hanging out. When you and I are having our usual conversation, I feel like it's a conversation and hopefully in some way inclusive of our listeners. So it's a very different dynamic. Dave. So here on out, I think you're not allowed to leave is the rule.
Okay, well, I'll make sure we make adjustments.
Have some priorities here.
Yeah, so we had a good trip out to Seattle,
Yeah.
Andy. It was fun. We went did some skiing. It was perfect. Like Seattle is obviously rainy, and it was very rainy there. But as you go up into the mountains, it amazingly switches to cold, and it changed to snow. And for my daughter, it was really cool for her. Like she's been in snow before. I was telling that story one time of
Yeah.
the first weekend we were in Charlotte, but to see it like they had a fresh dumping of like 2 feet of snow, plus it was snowing the day we went skiing. Then we went to this little town called Leavenworth, which is like a replica, like they made it into a German Bavarian town.
Oh, nice.
Every building is like Bavarian. They had all the great shops and everything. It was very, very cool couple days, but I'm definitely glad to be back, Andy.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you guys had a good time out there. A nice way to ring in the new year, Dave. Here we are. It's 2025, man. It's a big year.
It is a big year. It's big 5-0 for me in 2 weeks, Andy.
Yeah,
So
it's exciting. We're excited for you, Dave. The entire listening community, of which we're a part, is excited for you to celebrate the Big 5-0 to reach that significant milestone.
yeah, that'd be kind of gonna be fun.
Yeah.
So, all right, Andy, a lot going on. We got a lot to carry on for here. Where do you want to start, Andy? I'll give you the option. We can talk about New Year's goals and resolutions. We can talk about college football playoff and NFL play stuff this weekend, or we can talk about like MAGA Civil War, like New Orleans, Las Vegas, current event type of things that we don't typically get into sometimes,
Yeah.
but we will this time.
Why don't we start with the politics and get the shit out of the way early? Then we can end with the more positive stuff. Let's end with resolution. Let's do the exact reverse of what you just said.
Okay, that sounds great, Andy. Let's do that. So I'm going to start my little trusty timer here.
Yes.
Okay, Andy, so much going on over the last couple of weeks. The first one was like there was a MAGA civil war going on over immigration and this mass deportation stuff and who's going to be allowed in the country and who's not. We have the head of Doge, Vivek VR, and Elon Musk, who has changed his name on his Twitter handle to some name I don't even know, but talking about a certain position which is against the other MAGA loyalists, including Steve Bannon, who's been crying out for a harsh rebuttal of what they've been advocating for. It got to the point where Susie Wiles, the chief of staff for Trump, had to put out a statement to telling everybody, "Hey, we need to play nice."
Yeah.
And also nobody speaks for the president but the president. So crazy stuff going on in the MAGA world, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, it shows. I touched a little bit on this on Monday's pod, in that there's, to Mr. Trump's credit, he's brought together these disparate groups that aren't necessarily traditionally aligned with one another, and he's made this MAGA umbrella. But there's issues and divisions there, right? And so as some business interests are looking out on one end, as sort of the MAGA base is looking at another end, there's some tension and conflict there. And so it's going to be a challenge, moving forward to sort of successfully manage. We're seeing this now play out with potentially the Speaker of the House. Mike Johnson is pretty well supported, but because the margin is so thin for the Republicans, you've got one Republican saying he's not going to support the current speaker. It only takes one more to really throw that into chaos. So it's a challenging time to start out the term and the new Congress with these underlying tensions. You're talking about the debt ceiling. We're going to have to go back to, funding authorization. It's setting up some clashes just internal to the Republican Party, which for Democrats, like they want to show that Republicans can govern, and the Republicans have figured out a way to like unify on some of these core issues that are really divisive, right? Immigration is a really big divisive issue within the party, and you've got the business end, the technology end saying, hey, we want these specialists coming in from other countries. And then you've got some of the base saying, look, like you're taking away American jobs by doing this. It's a volatile situation.
Well, again, it goes back to some of the points we've been making all along about this country is too big and too diverse to have just two parties, one or the other.
Yeah.
And the same thing happens on the liberal side, right? I mean, with Bernie Sanders and AOC at one end, where people get branded that way, and then the talking points are all about how liberal and how left these groups are. But there's a lot of moderates in there. The same thing here is like you have some groups that are pushing for very hard, extreme no immigration, no allowance, and then there's obviously the people who are saying, hey, well, that doesn't really even make sense. We need to bring in this country is based on immigration and
Yeah.
good immigration. Let's be responsible about it. So interesting stuff there. Andy, also over there, on New Year's Eve, well, actually, it was on New Year's Day, we had a couple incidents in the country, one in Las Vegas and one in New Orleans. The Las Vegas one involved a cyber truck. It was a rented cyber truck that exploded. A
Yeah.
lot of reporting has gone on about the individual who was involved there, what was with inside the cyber truck. Obviously, it's a big, kind of push on Tesla's button about how the Cybertruck is probably not respond or not a great car or whatever. Look, it's blowing up. That's doesn't look like that's the case there, Andy. But then you have in New Orleans a vehicle ramming attack on revelers and on New Year's morning at 3 o'clock in the morning on New Year's Day. 15 people tragically lost their lives. Unfortunately, Andy, this gets very politicized very quickly, and I think we lose sight of what really we're trying to do here. Thoughts on when you saw those incidents occur?
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot to take in. I come back from a pleasurable New Year's Eve and started taking in this, a lot of information, right? And that's what you and I do in our work. So there's a lot to process. But there a lot of mixed thoughts. I mean, on sort of the funnier side, not that this should be funny, but it was kind of funny that like Teslas have had so many issues, Cybertrucks have so many issues that there was like uncertainty. Like, was this a deliberate explosion, or do these vehicles just genuinely suck this bad they're just blowing up? And there's still sort of a mix. Some people are still like, well, actually, like, do we know for sure? We do know for sure. There was a detonator that the driver had, but kind of comical that there's that even question because that's not the case with any other vehicle. But that aside, these are tragic incidents, right? What happened was awful. Even though, Las Vegas, the attacker lost his life, others were injured. They seem to be okay. New Orleans, a very different scene, a horrific scene, very violent. It's a terrible way to start out the year. Awful things, awful things. But what's almost just as awful is to see people continue to celebrate violence. And Dave, we've seen this from all corners. Right? We've seen it from, I mean, you go back not long ago. We've seen this throughout our history. We see it, even with the attempted assassinations on Donald Trump. We see this with certain attacks on immigrants. We see this with these incidents, the UHC executives murder, and people sort of celebrating some of these attacks. And I haven't seen Americans celebrating New Orleans, but there was even sort of with Las Vegas, sort of like it was deserved and how symbolic it is. Like violence is never the answer, right? I mean, it is never the answer, and that there's I feel like too many Americans being accepting, at least at the very least, being encouraging of, at a higher level of violence is it's really an unfortunate way to start out the year because that should never be the response, right? All political violence of any kind, regardless of whether you agree with the principles or ideology being espoused, should be condemned as wrong. And I feel like there's too much sort of acceptance that, hey, it's okay if it's against my enemy. Like I'm not going to completely condemn it as against my enemy. And that is not acceptable. Like we cannot be a nation that supports political violence against those we agree with or those we disagree with.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think this is and again, there was very obviously a very symbolic gesture made by the individual in the Las Vegas
Yeah,
attack. One, it was a Tesla poking at Elon, and then in front of Trump Tower or the Trump Resort, again poking at the incoming president.
yeah,
So there's a lot of symbolism there, and again, it is driven in some respects when threat actors plan these. The goal is how am I going to drive the discussion? How am I going to drive the aftermath? Because that is fanning the flames as much as like the guy who's not going to take out a million people with one attack there. He's gonna like the goal is to seed doubt, to seed fear, to seed concern, and to provoke some of this type of activity. And so you're right, violence is never the answer here. Both very tragic events. It'll be interesting to see how they are politicized and how some people, we have senators who are out to lunch on some of these discussions
yeah.
and in these news conferences. And it's just really unfortunate that, um, well, I've got an idea on politicians. We'll pitch that for next week, Andy. But I
Okay.
do feel like it's really a unfortunate situation, and we'll see how the investigation continues on these events and where we go from here. So,
Yeah.
anything further on those, Andy?
No, I think we can leave it there. I'll say on the politician side, like there's some genuine shitbags out there that show
Oh
their
yeah.
colors like very openly, and we'll leave it there until we get back to talk about it.
Yeah, I've got a great proposal, Andy, that I think we can make it happen too, by the way.
All right.
We've got some smart listeners out there. Maybe we can pull ourselves together and I think it's time, Andy. It's time
All right.
that we do this. Okay,
All right.
Andy, let's move to a next topic, Andy. Let's talk college football playoff.
Yeah.
Yesterday, because of the Las Vegas, or I'm sorry, because of the New Orleans attack, the Sugar Bowl between Georgia and Notre Dame was held yesterday. It was rescheduled from New Year's Day to yesterday, January 2nd. And now Notre Dame won. So
Yeah.
now we have the final four or the semifinals for the college football playoff. You're going to have Ohio State, which has just been steamrolling everybody. They steamrolled the number one Oregon Ducks in one game. They'll play against Texas, who held on against like a really spunky Arizona State team. The running back for Arizona State looks like a fullback. You remember like Mike Allstott level. The guy ran for over 150 yards, caught almost 100 yards worth of passes, and
Yeah.
then threw a 42-yard pass for a touchdown on fourth down that brought Arizona State closer to their comeback. Great, exciting game there. I thought that game was going to be a dud. So you have Texas versus Ohio State in one, and then you have my Penn State Nittany
Yeah.
Lions continue to roll through as I thought they would. They beat Boise State. It was a little closer than I had thought. They're going to play Notre Dame. And Andy, we talk about sports hate a lot. I fucking sports hate Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Like, I've hated them for so long in so many different ways. And I get them in the playoffs. Now I'm fucking scared shitless. Like, I don't want to lose now to Notre Dame. So it is what it is. Penn State's won the last couple of meetings with Notre Dame. But those were like 17 years ago. It was a long time ago. That game is going to be really good. I think Ohio State's going to just roll Texas. But have you caught any of the playoff, Andy? Have you seen any of this?
So yeah, I sort of watch it through the news. Like I also didn't watch the games, but like I monitor the games that are going on. It's been exciting. It's fun to see the playoffs doing what playoffs should do. I think in sort of weaning out, the goods and the bads, right? And so like your Nittany Lions are doing really well. It's exciting to see. Notre Dame, I think, is probably surpassing expectations. I think people knew they were a good team. I don't think they knew they were this good. And then you see teams like Ohio State, who can apparently beat everybody except for Michigan, right? So they
Yeah.
can't beat Michigan, but they're killing everybody else. And so you look at the playoffs now, just looking at the numbers. I mean, the number 8 seed, the number 5 seed, the number 7 seed, the number 6 seed, all those top ranked teams, which one of them would be the national champion if this was the non-playoff version of college football, right? Florida or Oregon, like they'd be christened the national champion. Not the case. It's like somebody's going
Yeah.
to go out there and win the national championship. I think it's super exciting, and we've got some exciting matches coming up here. I hope your Penn State Nittany Lions can beat Notre Dame. I also sports hate Notre Dame. I have for a very long time. Don't like to see them do this well. They're doing great. I think it's gonna be a tough game for you. Texas and Ohio State, that's a big matchup. So it's really fun and exciting. The playoffs are doing what the playoffs are supposed to do. Some tinkering may be required,
Yep.
but it's
Yep.
really exciting. We're gonna have a true national champion. No gimmies. No, because my schedule was easier than your schedule. Oregon got punched in the face, and we're seeing it play out really, really exciting manner now. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think a couple tinkering that will be done is looking at the seeding, how teams got seeded based on whatever. But Andy, you called it out. All top four seeds who had a bye in the first round
Yeah,
lost the second. I mean, the second round, and so that might people may say, hey, we may want to maybe expand it to 16 teams and that nobody gets a bye, but we'll see how that works. It'll be definitely interesting to see the next iteration. But I think it's doing what it's supposed to do. Is exciting. These been good matchups, even though some of the games have been blowouts. College football always has blowouts. It's just the way it goes.
yeah,
And some games are better than others. All right, Andy, let's switch to NFL because we've got a huge matchup this weekend between your Detroit Lions, who could have thrown in the towel against San Francisco because the game didn't mean anything.
yeah.
They came out on Monday night and beat up on San Francisco. I think it was Monday night.
It
Was it?
was.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
Sunday night.
was.
On beat up on San Francisco. Really good win there. Now they go back home and face the Minnesota Vikings. The winner is the number one seed.
Yeah.
The loser is the number five seed. How crazy is that? But Andy, big weekend for you. How are you feeling?
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, Dave, I'm feeling tired. So it started the week out. We had Sunday night football keeping me up late, the Monday night football keeping me up late, the New Year's Eve keeping me up late. I'm a tired man this Friday morning, but we're going to go right back into it Sunday night again. This is a huge game. I mean, some have called it the biggest game in the NFL regular season ever. First time two teams with 14 wins are duking it out in Week 18, like, and an incredibly meaningful game. I mean, both these
Yeah.
teams are going to the playoffs, but the winning team gets a bye and gets home field advantage throughout the playoffs. The losing team has to go right into the following week and is on the road, possibly for all of their games in the playoffs. Like that's a very big difference for two teams that have like great records, right? Between them, they've got a few losses each. Like it's incredible. So it's a tough situation. It brings up questions about, why are the Bucks or the Falcons, who can barely make the playoffs, going to be hosting a playoff game and so forth and so forth. But I'm excited for it. I think it's a great way to finish the season. The NFL flexed the game to Sunday night because America wants to watch this game. Two great coaches, two overachieving teams. It's going to be a super exciting match. In a weekend that really, there's a lot of dud games this weekend. The playoffs are pretty much set. There's a couple crappy games, but important ones like with the Falcons and the Bucks to see who gets that last playoff spot there. So there's some interesting games, but a lot of them suck. Some fun storylines to follow. But this game is huge. I mean, it's not a playoff knockout game, but it's essentially a playoff game between the Lions and the Vikings, two teams that could meet again in the NFC Championship potentially. So I'm super excited.
Yeah, it's gonna be really good, Andy, and I think I'm gonna watch this game. It's gonna be really a great game. There are a couple other ones you mentioned. The Tampa Bay should get that final win because Atlanta really shit the bed against the Commanders. Great win by Jaden Daniels and the Commanders in that game. I watched that one as well. And then in the AFC. You have Denver and Miami fighting for that last playoff
Yeah,
spot. Effectively, Denver's going against backups, which is all Kansas City's going to play. So you would think that they're going to win that one. Miami is going in, and Andy, they're not playing like they're playing a loser team too, and so like it just comes down to but Tua might not be quarterbacking. We'll see how that
yeah,
plays out. It's going to be a very interesting last week. Some exciting games, but mostly duds. You're right. I mean, it'll be just clean up for the playoff teams trying to stay healthy. But they will end on a bang on Sunday night. So
yeah.
good luck. Good luck to your Lions, Andy.
We'll take that, but there could be some fun spoilers in there, right? I mean, the Panthers could upset the Falcons. I think the Saints could upset the Bucks. That could be fun to see. Both
Yeah.
those games are at 1 o'clock, so they won't know, who. So they both got to win. Like Atlanta and Tampa have to go in there, like they've got to win. They should both win, which gives the Bucks the playoff spot, but they might not. And look, with Kansas City, Carson Wentz is still a good quarterback. We forget how good he was before he got injured. Like Kansas City still wants to win the game, and they
Yeah.
might, and they might. So, and Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, as much as I love to watch, absolute disaster they've been. Aaron Rodgers getting benched this last weekend, Tyrod Taylor coming in and playing great football. Like it was hilarious. But they could pull an upset too and give Miami a shot. So it'll be fun to see it play out. But yeah, I think all eyes are on Sunday night. It's going to be a great way to finish the season. Super excited. May the football gods smile on Detroit and give them the win because desperately need that bye week. We'll see where it goes, Dave. But it's going to be an exciting weekend of football. College playoff action coming up. It's going to be awesome.
I do like how the NFL has done, like they put the games that all depend on one another at the same time.
Yeah,
So because you can't, like, if the Bucks were playing at 4 o'clock and Atlanta loses that game, the Bucks have nothing to play for, so they would
exactly.
rest all their players. This way you guarantee that all the players are playing because something's on the line. I like the way they've grouped those games together. They
Yeah,
did the same thing with the 4 o'clock hour. Miami is playing the same time as Denver's playing. So those games you can't scoreboard watch, or you can scoreboard watch in time, but you can't be like resting players because everybody needs to play.
yep.
All right, Andy, let's go into our last segment now. Let's talk about New Year's resolutions. Are you a big New Year's resolutions fan?
I don't like to refer to them as resolutions, Dave. I do like to sort of reassess like what am I trying to do this year. I think of them really more as goals than resolutions. I know it's sort of a similar thing, but a resolution I feel is like I'm going to resolve to do something different. I feel like a goal is just, hey, this is something I want to accomplish, and I feel like that's two different things. So I'm more of a goals guy than a resolutions guy, if that makes sense.
I think that makes sense. It's important. I think some people, what do they say? It's the first, by January 14th,
Yeah,
most people have given up their resolutions
right.
already and so on. Like Andy, I think if you'll recall, last year I was at a certain weight, 225. At this time, I went down. I made my weight for the wedding. I've gone up a little bit since then. I think the holidays are just really tough, Andy.
They
It's
are. They
the
are.
bottom line. But I ended the year down, 8 pounds from last year. So I'm
It's awesome.
encouraged by that, right? So even though I'm not to where I was lowest during the year, it's okay. I still went down. I'm at a new low, and so I'll go down from there. So we'll get back on that horse and get all these baked goods out of my house, Andy. So um, but Andy, we had a pretty cool thing on I guess Blue Sky this last couple days.
Yeah.
You want to share a little bit about that, Andy? Because
Yes.
you were talking a little bit about the goals. We've talked a lot about pump clubs. We've talked a lot about other things. It was cool to get some feedback this week.
Yeah, it was cool. So, I mean, it started out because there was an interesting article that came out talking about, GLP-1s, right? Ozempics and these other weight loss drugs, which are incredible. I mean, they're having incredible results for people, but there's still the challenge when people get off of these drugs, they gain the weight right back, right? Because they're not refining their actual approach to things. And so when that suppression goes away, they fall right back to the same old habits and rapidly gain weight. So I posted about the article and was basically saying, hey, these are great. It's awesome to see, but nothing replaces just like living a healthy, fit lifestyle, like learning how to eat right, learning how to exercise regularly. Like that's much more sustainable and better for you in the long run, even though these drugs can be great boosters. And one of our listeners, one of our previous guests, Amanda Panda, came in and said, hey, like she and I were talking before the year ended, and her and her husband got on to the program, and she was saying, "Hey, I've had great results already. Like she's losing weight, she's feeling better. Her and her husband both are doing well. Awesome start to see that and to see her having results. And I think that's common, right? Right? Like when you start working out, if you have the discipline, especially if you haven't worked out in a long time or ever, like you get some pretty sweet, quick rewards because you see your body respond to just a little bit of discipline, right? You scale back some of those calories, you get that exercise in, you're burning more calories, you're using your muscles. Like you see a quick, and she's seeing a response, and it's awesome to see. So congratulations to Amanda and her husband for a strong finish to the year and a strong start. Super excited to see where that journey goes in 2025. And Dave, so many others are jumping in. The Pump Club had a good article talking about like, hey, if you want your goals to stick, like here's some things you can do to make them stick. And I think that's awesome because, like you said, most people by the end of the second week have given up already. Like they're done, right? Either knowingly or they sort of like forget about it and fall off. If you can maintain that discipline, like you can crush goals, and I think that's so important. It's such an accomplishment to get there.
Yeah, no, I think it's really important. Again, I think it's like you mentioned, it's important to set some goals and focus on where you want to go, but it's also important to not just like the set unrealistic goals or set goal like 15 goals. I think the Arnold newsletter put it out pretty well this week, and it was like, look, keep it simple, keep it straightforward, and keep it manageable. Like I'll just cover a couple things here, like prioritize one or two goals, focus on those areas that will impact your life the most, and then resist the urge to overload. I mean, I
Yeah,
think it's if you bury yourself, you're like, I'm never going to get there. But if you stay focused on one or two, I think that's really important. Use simple implementation plans, like looking at if and then statements, like, hey, look, if it's 7 o'clock, I'm going to the gym. I'm going to make sure I'm going to make that time. If it's after this time, I'm not gonna use my social media or whatever. I'm
yeah,
gonna relax and power down. So if then type of things will be great. Build momentum is, once you get to that one goal, set a new one. Like add in a different approach. Now add an additional element. Don't overload it at the beginning. Get to that first one, then build from there.
yeah,
Track your progress, Andy. I think this is well established. Is I use an app too, is I like track my weight, and you can see the fluctuations and you can understand where you need to go. I think holding yourself accountable through some sort of tracking method, whether that's a journal, whether that's a notepad or on an app, it's important to track that model. And look, I think the other part here is that, and we talked about this when we had some of our guests on, be kind to yourself, Andy. Is look, this is not going to be all roses the whole time. You're going to
yeah,
have, setbacks. You're going to have weeks where you gain a pound back, where you'd lost previously a pound the week before, and you may feel like a failure. Give yourself some credit. Give yourself a time to crack. Sometimes you need a break, and sometimes you need to just take a step back and reassess, and then go forward again. It's okay. Look, I'm not as happy as where I was at the end of the year as I was in the beginning. I'm still down though, Andy. I'm going to give myself credit for that.
yeah.
I'm going to go forward from here and go. So give yourself a little bit of break on that end. So that's where I'd go with that, Andy.
Yeah, no, I think it's all right on. We can share a link for the article that came out yesterday that has some of these approaches in it, and just simple tips that are great. And again, the app that the Pump Club uses, gives you a lot of that, right? Having that discipline, having some kind of tool or forcing mechanism to push you along, get those results. It can be really helpful, and you can dial out and just like follow the programs. I think it's great. So, hey, look, Dave, in addition to man, in addition to other friends, I've really encouraged a lot of folks to sign up for these programs. I think there's a lot of benefit in it. One of my longtime friends, my high school lifting partner, one of my best friends, Pun, if you're listening, is also jumping in. He's kicking things off next week, and I'm excited for him. And Pun, you better fucking do it. If you're listening, I'm telling you right now, you better fucking do it. And if you're not listening, screw you. You should be listening. But I'm super excited for people to go out there and achieve their goals. When it comes to health and fitness, one, we're making our quality of life better, and we're adding to our potential, duration on this earth, and making it as pleasurable as we can because we're healthy and able to do things. So I think it's great. Whatever age you are, whether you're 20 or 40, or Dave, as we're approaching 50, or even 60 or 70, like it's never too late to start like resistance exercises, building muscle, building strength, doing a little bit of conditioning. Like you don't have to go out there and be a super athlete. We're not trying out for the NFL. We're not going to the combine. You just want to be your best self, and feeling good. You're looking in the mirror and being proud of what you're accomplishing. Like those are really important things for physical and mental health. It's super important, and it just takes a little bit of discipline to stick with it and really make that progress and feel good about who you are. I hope folks, get involved this year and make themselves the fittest, the best they can be. And I hope they can stick with it and following some simple rules, using some simple tools. Like we can all achieve success. Like let's do that in 2025.
Yeah, it is great. All great points. And Pun, if you are out there and if you're not listening, well, you better we'll get you on here. But again, you need to be held accountable. I mean, like
Yeah,
have somebody that you can rely on. Like Andy, I think you do a great job encouraging me and getting me through this. You need somebody who can be supportive of your growth and progress. And I think it's really important to do it. And again, if you're going to make some wholesale life changing changes, like eating habit changes or sleeping habit changes, and you have a spouse or loved one that you're working with, share that goal with them so that they can help you in that product. Like And I think it's just really important to have that support network along the way. That's what that pump app does. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
community built in there. And again, we don't get sponsored by Arnold or anything like that, but it is a very positive environment and platform, and we would encourage you to look at it. So, all right, Andy, anything else exciting going on with you?
No, I mean there probably is, but I'm not thinking of it. But I'm just excited about, everything for this year, Dave. It's an exciting way to start out the year. A lot to look forward to. Glad to have you back with us and excited for the pod.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a great year looking ahead. This is, I mean, Andy, it's hard to believe we've been doing this for a year and a half. I mean,
Yeah,
it's crazy. So love
you're
our
welcome, America.
audience, love our engagements on the socials, and you do a better job at that than I do, Andy. I need to do better. So maybe that'll be one of my resolutions for the year. So we'll
Wait,
see how.
waste more time on the socials, New Year resolution.
All right, Andy, with that exciting weekend ahead, can't wait to touch base with you over on Monday and
Yeah,
find out how the things went. But I'll be in touch over the weekend, see how you're faring as you're getting up for the big game.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Go Lions, one pride.
all right, there we go. With that, Andy, we'll catch up with you on Monday.